Hello, everyone. This is Emerson Castillo, and my teammates are Mabel Arias, Daniel Perez, Ashley Rodriguez, and Catherine Montgomery. So, as you can see, we have here the topic that is a comparison and contrast of distant students' organizations at Kansas University and the University of Costa Rica. Revelation of students' power and positive culture at the university. In the next slide, you can see the contents of the presentation. We will first start with the relevance of the topic. Then we will move into two student governments that we chose for each university. So we have two for UCR and two for KU. Then we will compare and contrast both universities. And finally, we will give you some conclusions and recommendations. So to get started, well, you already saw the topic, but just once again, the topic is about the distant organizations that represent the students' power and that try to create positive changes in the universities. So what we intend to make is a comparison and a contrast between two student governments in each university. So we chose for Kansas University, the Student Senate, and also the ASME, that stands for American Society of Mechanical Engineering. On the other hand, for UCR, we chose the FEUCR, that stands in Spanish for Student Federation of the University of Costa Rica, and AELN, that stands for Association of Students of Modern Languages in Spanish again. So now, why did we choose this topic? Well, the reason why we chose it is because we consider these governments important. They play an important role on campus. For instance, they look out for students not only in academic, but social matters, and they do it by striving to voice the students' concerns. So pretty much by serving the students' interest. And additional to this, these governments have or fulfill, I would say, a collective function in which they try to build a sense of community on campus. And this is particularly true for student faculty governments that many students perceive as a space in which they can socialize and share things related to their specific majors. So overall, these governments are expected to bring about meaningful changes on campus. So that's why we want to find out about these contributions that are attributed to these governments. Also see if there's any similarity or difference when comparing both universities, and see if this information tells us something about our cultures. Last but not least, we also have an additional reason why we chose this topic, and it's because these governments not only advocate or represent university students, they tried also to expand their influence, their contributions outside of campus. So that's why you might have seen some of these governments stepping in and fighting against social injustice. You might have seen them sometimes getting involved in major issues in their communities, such as poverty, corruption, contamination, and so on and so forth. So again, having this in mind, we can agree that these governments are really important, that they play an important role on campus. And they can also promote meaningful changes in the student lives, but also in their cultures, in their societies. So consequently, we would like to discover if these governments have an influence or even can change the hegemonic culture.
Hello, professors and classmates. This is Mabel Arias, and I'm going to be talking about two of the student associations of the University of Costa Rica and their structure, purposes, and how they achieve those purposes. I'm going to start with the Student Federation of the University of Costa Rica. The FEUCR is a humanistic institution made up of students from different majors and who are year after year elected by us, the university community, in order to represent us. This organization advocates for the common good of the student community, and above all, they seek to create safe spaces for student reunion in which various topics of student interest, such as arts, human rights, research, while physical and mental being are addressed. Within the FEUCR, there are different organs or subgroups like the directory, the university council. There are various commissions. There is a university publishing house. There is also the student electoral court, the Defensoría Estudiantil, and also the Frente Ecologista. And the major functions of this organization are work for the articulation of the existing UCR, the Student Association, be an agent of social and political transformations for Costa Rica, advocate for the student population and for protecting the monetary resources assigned to higher education, protect the university autonomy, and fight for the human rights of the student population and Costa Ricans in general. Many of the objectives of the FEUCR are achieved through government financial support, of course, and well, every year a budget is granted to the FEUCR for the development of its projects. The FEUCR is an entity of great respect in the university community and in the national political space. And as we know, this is because in situations of social and political vulnerability, the Federation has raised its voice, has called the student body to protest, and has tirelessly watched over social justice and the rights of the student community. Now I'm going to continue with the Association of Students of Mother Languages. This association represents us, the students of mother languages, before the rest of the university. Every year, an assembly is held in which it is decided who will be the students at the head of the association. Mother language students who are enrolled in English BA and French BA are the ones who are part of this association. This association focuses more on providing support to students in academic matters and opening spaces for the reunion of students of mother languages. And the AELM seeks to create a sense of collectivism in the students of mother languages. The major functions of this organization are represent and advocate for the students of mother languages before the School of Mother Languages and the other organs of the university. They also organize various recreational activities for the enjoyment of students. They disseminate information of interest to students about academic, social, and professional aspects through their main social networks. And they provide support to junior students as they transition to college. And I just wanted to add that all of this information or part of this information might be mainly found in their social networks. So in case you want to get more information about them or their programs, there is too much information about that, and you might get all of that information through their social media or as well in their official webpage.
Hi, hello. My name is Catherine Montgomery, and I will be talking about the University of Kansas, two of our student organizations, which is our Student Senate and our American Society of Mechanical Engineering, also known as ASME. Now, for our Student Senate, we have a Senate legislation of 110 senators with 11 executive staff members. Our senators are all elected and they run for their positions based off a number of things, such as their schools of study, whether they live off or on campus. Some of them are backgrounds such as non-traditional students or international students, or their association to other organizations such as Latin American Student Union, Black Student Union, and many more. Now, I put a little quote here from their mission and history statement, but basically, the Student Senate is a primary advocate for our student voices. They organize and decide how to allocate about $25 million in student fees to best serve the student body annually. The Student Senate also represents the student body not just at the university, but also on a state and national level. Now, there's a lot of needs for a student body of around 26,000 students here at KU. So some of the ways that they've had to meet these needs are by funding programs to help serve the students. I put a list here, which is a good number of things you can see on the KU Student Senate website, but I'm going to just touch on a few of them that I find very clever and intuitive. Now, one of these is ECAPS Digital Therapy. CAPS is our counseling and psychology services here at KU. ECAPS was put in place to provide online therapy via texting, video chatting, or voice chatting. This helped create better accessibility for these services while also lessening the burden on our CAPS workers. Another program that's near and dear to my heart is our Women in STEM program. So this program organizes and plans day-long forums for women all across Kansas to come and tour our engineering complex and our science buildings, as well as they can hear from our female professors and lecturers in STEM majors, and also other successful STEM women from around the state. And last but not least, I also included our Sexual Violence Survivor Fund, which this program came about 5 years ago this month. They just celebrated their 5th birthday. So this fund not only helps survivors with related medical costs, but also for resources for replacing things such as bed linens, safety-related needs such as lock changes, cellular devices, etc., as well as they have a one-time assistance with rent and housing accommodations during breaks for safe housing. Now, talking about our American Society of Mechanical Engineers, or ASME, which, if you can't tell, is my major, so big fan. First and foremost, it's a multinational organization. They have over 130,000 members in over 30 countries. Our KU chapter has 5 elected officers, which is president, vice president, recruitment chair, and 2 event coordinators, as well as 3 technical division committees, which we call TDCs. Our current technical division committees are advanced energy, biomechanical, and manufacturing. I included a little snippet from their KU Rock Track page, which basically just says that they host collaborative events, they feature guest speakers, and organize ways to help students become more involved in the KU mechanical engineering community, which is exactly what it sounds like. They organize ways and events for mechanical engineering students to meet and connect with their peers, professors, and professionals in their field. Now, KU ASME also seeks out companies that showcase industry, and they work alongside the Engineering Career Center. Now, some of the things they do, not only are events and things like that, but they also offer rooms for students to get involved. One of my favorite ones of these is the TDCs. TDCs host projects and events towards their subdiscipline of mechanical engineering and invite successful engineers and researchers in their field to help explore the pathway that could be taken. And that's all I have for you. Thank you for listening.
Hi, this is Daniel Perez, and after having the information of Kansas University and the UCR associations, we can infer that the main comparisons between both universities are the following. For example, the organizations represent and advocate for the students in their majors. They also work as an agent of social and political transformation, and they create safe spaces for students and promote their participation. We found that the main contrast between both universities is the following. For example, in Kansas University, they seek out companies willing to showcase industry and actively work with the engineering career. But instead, in the University of Costa Rica, even though they share professional information in the main social networks, they are not really working with companies. And also, we found another contrast that is, for example, in ASME is a multinational organization of mechanical engineers, and the students associations at UCR are more like a students assembly or a board of directors, according to the official websites of both universities. Then we can see that students' organizations can be an essential part of the university experience. According to Chelsea Castonway 2001, In her article, Why Students' Associations Are an Essential Part of the University Experience, expresses that students who become more involved in university life tend to have higher rates of retention and satisfaction with their overall university experience. She also mentions that students who participate in these kind of organizations are able to refer students to the right organization because they already know how it works, like they are aware that these organizations can help students. And finally, she concludes like these kind of organizations create connections, build relationships, and expand their skills sets beyond the classroom. In this point, strengthen students' autonomy and leadership. We can see like these organizations exist to intermediate the interests of these students to an authority, a higher education institution, or government. So after watching this video of Patricia Fumero, we can infer some ideas that she mentioned in the video. And she said that sometimes students don't really want to participate in these organizations because they don't want to get involved in political aspects. Instead, they prefer to get just involved in social aspects. So she mentions that it has to be like a balance between both, like having this political participation, but this social interaction as well. So students and governments have to relate to that authority, engage with its structure and agenda. So it means like they have to participate also in political aspects. The last point, that is building a positive culture, we found some cultural aspects in both universities that are related to social groups, and for example some micro cultures, and talking about LGBT community groups, and also some religious groups like Catholics or Christian people that share like different values, or even people from different countries sharing different attitudes, or even the students at the university share different goals. So the idea in any culture, or even in microculture groups, is to find a language for communicating in a better way. So I think students' organizations can be a positive way for students to build a positive culture throughout the throughout the university. So sometimes these microcultures have less power than the majority, but in the students' government, they can find a way to make this less problematic.
Hello, everyone. This is Ashley, and I'm in charge of the conclusions the conclusions and recommendations part of our presentation. So, firstly, I would like to address how important it is to give students a voice and how relieved we were when we discovered that there was a parallel organization that was taking care of students and addressing students' concerns and seeking for this to be solved. Firstly, I would like to reflect a little bit of both student communities and the different microcultures and how they are reflected on each organization, each of four organizations that my partners talk about. First, we can see the diversity. I think it's extremely important to highlight how within these communities, these student organizations, within you can see more diversity, you can see more subgroups, microcultures in each community and organization, of course. And the representation, how important it is for each community to feel safe within this environment, in this case, in the academic environment. Another point that I would like to address is the multifunctionality of all four organizations, especially in a good way. They are a little bit different, but once again, this reflects how the hegemonic culture works. They kind of mimic the Costa Rica, the University of Costa Rica reflects Costa Rican um, hegemonic culture, and the Kansas University, the United States culture too. We can see it in, especially in how they are, where they get their money from. And for example, in the ASME, we can see we saw that the programs are more focused mainly on students. They don't have like political programs as the UCR has, but of course, this comes from the fact that their income comes from the students themselves. So that priority in this case would be students and programs to help to solve the problems. In the UCR, we do have programs like that, but they are not within the organizations. They are a whole other organization by itself. And of course, the organizations in the UCR, at least the ones with the two of the organization we talk about, they are more focused, especially the FEUCR, is concentrated in political and environmental issues as they are financed by the government, and it is really important for young generations to acknowledge these issues, and as a culture to know and participate on programs like this. Another and lastly, the most important part of all four organizations is how they all seek for unity and balance, not only as organizations, but as a student community, especially considering how big these communities are. And we can see how the structures of both, well, I always keep saying both, I'm so sorry, of all four organizations kind of mimic the governmental structure. For example, the Senate, the Student Senate, it's divided as how the United States will organize a political organization, and how the UCR's organizations kind of mimic the way the structure of Costa Rican political organizations are formed. Sorry. But yeah, technically that was all for our presentation. We hope you enjoyed, and thanks for listening. And yeah, thank you very much.